years later, a Marine female general who was in one of my classes, my remote viewing classes, said to me, she goes, do you know you can go back to the discharge review board and you can plead your case about this and, and give the evidence that was never given, because if you had gone to the court martial, they would have preferred the charges of dereliction of duty, and she said, how would you have pled if that happened? I went, guilty. I did it. I would not sit on the stand under oath and go, I did not do that. I don't know what you're talking about. I just wouldn't have done that. I'm not stupid. I did it for a reason. So she goes, well, then you did the right thing, because if you had gone and done that, they would have found a way to put you in jail, and they would have for a very long time. I mean, I'm not Chelsea Manning. I'm not going to get in there and get out very quickly because I, want to do something. There was a problem with that. I was going to go for a while, and they were going to make a big example of me. And the thing that was frustrating, and then I'll get back to the why. The thing that was extraordinarily frustrating for me is because of the things that I had done and the place that I had been and the connections that I had and the generals that, said the things about me that they said, destined to wear stars and even better comments. And I thought that they would come to my rescue. I thought that, my accomplishments in the military would be the buffer for this, that I might get my ass chewed, or somebody might tell me because of what you've done, you won't get a battalion or something like that. But I'm at 18 years in my career at this point. And I end up having to resign and walk away. And
so you don't get retirement pay, nothing.
I get nothing. And I've been given an other than honorable discharge. So as I said, I went back some years later because this female Marine general, now retired, said, don't stand for this. And so I went back. I had to hire a lawyer and went back. And you'll love this. I mean, there are 5 colonels. They are all what are called terminal colonels, meaning they're not going higher. And they sit on an elevated platform, and your case is presented to them, the case that got you the OTH. And there is a reader. The reader in my thing was a Mormon. Which meant that the idea of being charged with adultery and the other stuff was something that was really lighting his personal fuse. I'm certain of this, given his demeanor and the questions that he asked in the meeting, and so in the board rather. So the reader is responsible to read the entire file, which in my case was, 12 inches tall, and then he briefs the others. He prepares a small brief and gives it to the others, and so. I've got my son in uniform in there. I mean, there's an Air Force colonel in there. Vice President of Sony Music is in there. My wife is there, and my new wife. And I have 185 letters that were written by former Rangers and former lieutenants and others, people that I served with, not people that actually fellow company commanders. There was always a competition with that, but soldiers that served under me and people who I had taught remote viewing over the years. So 185 letters, at least 80% of those came from former Rangers and former paratroops that had served with me. And the board was faced with that. And then they asked, they decided who was going to speak first. I think it was Patty. And as Patty started talking, she was so eloquent, and she just immediately began weeping, and her just talking about this, what it was like to live with a man who felt like he had, betrayed and lost something very valuable to him. And by the time she got done, there wasn't a dry eye in the room, the people that were there on my behalf. Then the next person to present was my son. And by the time he gets done, and by the time Colonel Robert Frank, now deceased, the Air Force colonel, 3-time below the zone to Air Force colonel, I'm looking up on the board, and of the 5 people, 4 of them are wiping back tears. Just because the passion that these people were expressing to them, they began resonating with it. all these.
They began to see themselves in it for some,
Yeah. Oh, and then I get asked a question, and the instant I open my mouth to answer the question, I begin weeping myself. It was just the most crazy thing that I had ever experienced. And I ended up unanimously being given an honorable discharge. Unanimously. That normally never happens. And even to get a reversal of a discharge of that nature, given the history, would have been less than 1%, easily less than 1%, according to my lawyer. He goes, we'll find out. He goes, I have hopes, but he goes, the percentages are this. And in less than 5 days, my lawyer calls me on the phone. He goes, am I talking to Major Promotable Morehouse with the honorable discharge? and the letter that accompanied it said that the board found that the charges against me were baseless, without merit, and with no credible evidence. This, of course, was not the dereliction of duty, because that was never a charge. It was the other crap. It was designed. I mean, is that not evil? It's designed to get you in there to think you're going to fight it, and then they're going to hit you with a thing that's going to,
put you away for a long time.
They're going to put you away. They're going to harpoon you in the back. So based on what was charged with, basis on evidence. So now I walked out of there a kind of a new guy, not dragging the baggage of an OTH out of there. And knowing my career as you've seen it up to that point, you can imagine how devastating that was.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. Additionally, if you have any feedback, please put something in the comments below. And lastly, if you want to watch the full episode of this clip, you can find it above. Thanks again for watching.